Nico Harrison offered Luka to Minnesota for Ant-Man before he went to the Lakers. Should Minnesota have taken that trade, or would you rather trade AD, Luka goes to Minnesota, and Ant-Man comes to LA? All right, hello and welcome to episode 20. Oh my goodness, episode 27.
The new unboxing knife.
Podcast. I'm your co-host Juan Martinez. And to my left and to my right, he's got a knife. Shock Slade, everybody. I don't know if we're supposed to show that on video.
It's unboxing knife.
Oh my god.
Sheets to it and everything. It's pretty cool.
Sure it is. I was like, before you explained what it was, I was like, what, did I say something wrong? Did the pre-show, were you offended by something I said? I was like, oh no. That is not the theme of this show. That is not the theme of this show today. So today is a mailbag episode.
Oh, cool. We've been waiting.
Yes, it's the return of the mailbag. So if anybody has any questions, concerns, complaints, I'll ignore that one. But if you have anything of the previous two, you can send them to the mailbag. It's toohardtopasspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it is toohardtopasspodcast@gmail.com. That is the number two. Number two. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be answering questions, and Josh's going to be trying to do his Rubik's Cube, which hopefully he will finish by the end of the episode.
See, the trick is I want to focus on the conversation is primary. Like, this is secondary. So that's why I don't finish. But
it's your multitasking thing, right? Like, you're trying to do two things at once. Like, At some point, we're going to get to a point where Jacques is, like, answering questions or, like, doing hard pass, and he's got, like, the Rubik's Cube. He's just doing this. Boom.
That would be great if I could just be like, it's so when
bam, and then like do it again, bam, bam. He's just doing it like that's Jacques gonna be like that's the new lane he is going to be occupying. After sneakers, he's going to be occupying he's going to be a Rubik's Cube influencer. That's what he's gonna do. Yes. He's absolutely down for that. All right, so for our first question, it's coming to us from Nathan from Tumwater, Washington. That's
okay, Nathan.
There's a Tumwater, Washington? Oh, no. Sure. All right. Hello, Too Hard to Pass Pod. What is the sneaker that you wear that gets the most sneakerhead nods? That's the question.
That gets the most sneakerhead nods.
Yeah.
That's a
good question.
You know what? Honestly, I think it's the LeBron, John Elliott icon.
Oh, that was the one that was the one for you.
Yeah, I think like actual sneakerheads.
Sure.
Like that's the one that they notice the most. I think non-sneakerheads don't really notice it as much as like say an 11 or something like that.
Right.
But if it's like a sneakerhead or somebody that's in the culture, when I wear the LeBron Elliott's, I get like, oh yeah, like I mess with those. Like oh man, like I never got those, or so I get that kind of response to those.
Yeah.
I wear the tan pair probably the most. I think I have all the colors except for like that friends and family one. But I wear like the tannish taupe color pair the most. I literally just wore them the other day and like had like 4 people at this event that I went to. Like it wasn't even like a sneakerhead event. It was just like a random golf thing, and like some guys that wore sneakers were there, and they were just like yeah. Like, yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing there, right?
Yeah. So I think, oddly enough, I would say those, the LeBron John Elliott icon. Again, I'm going to say the taupe colorway because that's the one that I generally wear the most. I think I personally like the gray pair that was like the friends and family one, but I don't have those. So I would say that's probably the sneakerhead nod shoe.
Yeah, for me, I think it was a pair of the Zoom Flight 95s. It was when Jason Kidd was about to retire, and he had like a pack, like 4 or 5 pairs of the Zoom Flight 95s, and it was like representing the different teams that he played for. I think there was like one for Cal, there was one for Dallas, New York, Jersey, and all that stuff. And I had a pair of the Dallas colors, and I remember wearing those fairly like after like it came out, and then like maybe like a months or so afterwards, and I would notice that was the one that kind of got the most nods for me because they were like, oh, J Kid, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
they're like, it's one of those like if you know kind of deals. So, and it's interesting for both of us.
Was that then or is that now?
Oh, I haven't worn it in a while. I haven't worn it in a
Oh,
while.
okay, okay.
So I think maybe I last wore it maybe 2 years ago. Maybe 2 years ago might be the last time I wore it. So,
What would you say is the
and
one that you get now?
now, oh my gosh, yeah, I don't. You know, funny enough, like I did someone did say Vomero, like someone did like give me a nod for a pair of Vomeros that I have. It's a white silver and with a gold swoosh. And
Okay.
I was just wearing it, for just casual, like I don't know if it was like at the mall or I forget what it was, but like I did remember someone say like, "Yo, man, I mess with those, and I'm like, all right, cool."
Yeah.
It's just like, but it's interesting that for both of us, it was a sneaker that's not top of mind. It's not like the
Yeah.
Unions, it's not like Yeezys, it's not one of those kinds of pairs. It's like a deeper cuts. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Because I
think it's
mean, I think
interesting.
there's obviously shoes like if I wore like my shattered backboards or
Sure.
something like that, I'm sure people would be like, oh, they would notice those kind of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
like
yeah.
those get noticed. But I think there's like a different kind of head nod to
Hmm.
certain shoes. Like there's like the hype shoe. Everybody's like, oh, okay, you got Travis's on. Oh, okay, cool. You've got J Tips on. Like there's like that kind of
Right,
like super popular head nod, I think. And
right,
then
right,
there's the oh, I recognize what those are. You're kind of like, okay, I see those kind of
right.
thing. And
You're
I
really
think that's
into
the
the weeds
difference.
when, yeah, it's that kind of
Yeah, yeah,
sneaker.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think like that. I think there's two separate like sort of situations here, and I think
right.
I like the oh okay I see those kind of thing
Yeah,
as opposed to oh you have the Travises.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Because
does
everybody
everybody
knows
else.
those.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
I appreciate both, but at the same time, there is something to be said about somebody who notices something that you're wearing that's not top of like popular at the moment or something, and you just like broke them. I'm like, oh, you haven't worn these in like a couple years. You're like, oh, I'll just wear these. See, not necessarily you're looking for like approval or anything like that, but it is funny though. Like it is nice that when you wear something that you haven't worn in a while and has
Yeah.
really but been mostly forgotten. But then someone
Yep.
noticed it. You're like, yo, you got those on. I'm like, yep, exactly. Oh, I think another one that did happen recently was the Shacknosis. But I think people know what the Shacknosis is. But I did thought it was pretty
I don't
cool that
know. I
someone
think
was
that
like,
qualifies
you
in
think
that
so?
kind of old because it's like that like I don't think a lot of the current
Maybe
generation
younger, yeah,
are
yeah.
really know about it. So like
Mm-hmm.
that's a nostalgia nod. I think you know what I mean.
Right,
Kind of thing.
sure,
That's usually that's
sure.
more like a nostalgia nod. I'm like, oh, I was outside with you. I was outside
Yeah, that was
with you.
definitely like an older sneakerhead who noticed the Shacknosis. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was definitely like I was outside with you, bro. We were both outside back then.
Absolutely. All right, so thank you for that question, Nathan. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that was a great question, Nathan.
Yes. Next one is from Jason from Eastvale, California. Oh, pretty close, pretty close. It's a local. Um, I still can't believe the Lakers got Luka Doncic. Just when I started to lose hope, the Lakers find a way. We are back, baby. I can feel number 18 on the way. But what does this mean for LeBron's legacy? I like to swerve at the end.
Yeah, all the hype and then the run. So, I
For those
think
who don't
this,
know, though, what does this mean for LeBron's legacy is like a meme that,
yeah,
for totally unrelated posts on the internet, it could be politics, it could be gaming, it could be whatever. Someone will just put, well, what does this mean for LeBron's legacy? It could have nothing to do with LeBron, and someone will
yeah,
just comment, well, what does this mean for LeBron's legacy? So appreciate that,
okay,
Jason. You had us in the first half. That's another meme.
yeah. So let's try and answer this seriously.
Okay.
Um, what this means for LeBron legacy. So, I think it allows LeBron to not have all the pressure on his shoulders, which
Yes.
I believe at this point in his career is a good thing.
Yeah,
Like him
absolutely.
being able to relax a little bit and not have to carry the burden of carrying the team. I think with Anthony Davis, he still had to carry the team.
Mm-hmm.
With Luca, he still has to be the leader, but I don't think he needs to carry the team. And that I think is that opens up the potential for him to really cook and to really find the moments where he really needs to shine, which
Yeah.
is exciting. Which is exciting for me. I think hopefully Luca stays. I know he has to decide what he's going to do. Uh,
Right.
but if that means if the Lakers get pretty far this year,
Yeah.
could be very very nice for
Yeah.
the Laker Nation.
I think so too. Like, I think it'll be great for the Lakers and everything. But for in terms of like LeBron, I think it does kind of help his legacy. I think like if the Lakers were to win another championship, and at this point, I think we could acknowledge that Luka's going to be like the lead guy, the number one
Hmm.
guy, and I think it helps LeBron because like there's always been this talk about like LeBron being like this person who's has to have everything, has to have the spotlight on him. Everything has to revolve around him. Even though on
Hmm.
the court, he's not really like that. He's an unselfish superstar.
Not at all.
He will always do the right play, but for
Yep.
some reason there's this like narrative, there's this conversation about LeBron being like the spotlight hog, even though his play doesn't really show that. He does what he has to do, but
Right.
what he has to but because he is such a genius basketball mind, what he has to do is typically the right thing to do. And yeah, no, I think it's gonna help. I think it's gonna help his legacy, especially if the Lakers were to win another championship, regardless of whether he's the one or two. But yeah, I think it's gonna be helpful. But at the end of the day, they actually have to win.
Yeah.
They actually have to win a championship because if they don't, like if Luka goes on and LeBron retires, it's just like it's level. Whatever we are with LeBron's legacy now is where it is. It can only enhance his legacy. It can never. It can. I don't think it'll ever hurt. Like regardless of whatever happens within this next year or two, I don't
Yeah.
think whatever happens with Luca is gonna hurt his legacy. I think it'll either enhance it or just keep it level. So
Yeah. Do you think Luka extends LeBron's playing career?
it's possible. Just because we've just seen it from the past couple games, it's like LeBron doesn't have the ball in his hands as much as he used to. Like we've seen Austin Reeves take some of the playmaking responsibilities like this season, but it's different when it's Luca, obviously.
Yeah.
So Luca's gonna have the ball more, and LeBron's gonna be able to be just this off the ball beast, like making cuts and like just showing off the athleticism and like conserving his energy. Because we've always
Yeah.
read these like little pieces and articles about like how LeBron finds ways to conserve energy even during a game.
Yeah.
That's gonna be accelerate. That's even gonna be even more now that he doesn't have to worry as much with the playmaking or bringing up
Yeah.
the ball up the court or anything like that. So I think if LeBron, I mean, obviously at the end of the day, like, Father Time's undefeated. We always talk about like, LeBron's beating Father Time, but eventually it will catch up to him. So, but I think it is possible. It does, it like, makes it more likely that he could extend his career. But I think he's also going to look at his options and be like, let's see how Luca really does, like,
Yeah.
this postseason and next season.
And next
Because I think
season,
what
yeah.
is LeBron like? He still has another year in his contract, right? I think it goes
I
until
think so.
26.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
another year. Yeah.
so we'll see. But I also don't see him going anywhere else at this point. I think he's pretty much, if he extends his career, is probably going to be with the Lakers,
Yeah. Retire a Laker.
unless he
That
does
makes the most sense.
the sign with the Cavaliers for one day, just so he says he retired as Cavalier. You know how some players do that.
Yeah,
Like I could
yeah.
also see that too, just to like close the book completely, and just be like Cleveland and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's the only way I can see LeBron not retiring technically as a Laker is if
Yeah.
he retires, does a 1 day contract with the Cavs just to like say he did it as a Cav.
That's
So
to retire as a Cleveland. That
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
All right. So Jason, thank you for the email. All right. Next up, we have Sunil, and doesn't say where he is. I guess people don't, you don't necessarily share that. That's fine. Uh,
Neil got business he don't want y'all to know about.
yeah,
That's what
exactly,
don't worry
right.
about.
Yeah, no, it
Or
was funny because
she.
like the first couple of emails were like, oh, they're from Tumwater, Washington, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, cool. All right, so Sunil asked, what is your biggest sneaker regret? Maybe it's a shoe you sold or gave away, or something you could have bought but decided not to. Mine is the
Ooh.
first time they retroed the Air Jordan 1 Chicago in 1994. They were $80. I had the money saved up, but I was convinced by my mom not to get them because they were old
Oh,
shoes, and why should I get old shoes?
wow, that's fantastic. That's
Wow.
fantastic.
I kind of see what his mom was trying to say. It's like,
Yep.
those are old
Yep.
shoes. Why would you want those?
Yep.
Get
That's
something new or something like
fantastic.
that, right?
Oh, wow. That's
Oh,
beautiful.
dang. Oh, sneaker regret. Um, Gosh. I think one that comes to like the first thing that comes to mind. It's usually when I buy a sneaker, and then it's like on sale like a month later. Like that's typically how when I think about regrets, I don't really, I can't say I have like sneaker regret of like I didn't buy something, because especially during that height when I was like, in the sneaker blog era, because I had to either buy it or, I got it in the mail.
Yeah.
So there was never really during that era. So in terms of like me, like when it comes to sneaker regret, I think the one that comes to mind first is the LeBron Palmer, the Nike
Okay.
LeBron 9. I think I bought that at whatever, it was like a Shoe Palace or whatever. It was like full price. I think it was like $200 or 180. And then like within months later, it was like on clearance, and I'm like, oh man.
Oh,
It's like the worst feeling. It's like, I should have just waited, because you never know, right? Because like the LeBron Palmer, it was a PE of LeBron, like previously. It's
yeah.
honoring the Arnold Palmer iced tea lemonade combo and all that stuff, and it was definitely like a sneaker that got a lot of play in the blogs, in the blog era.
Yeah.
And people talk about like his rare PEs and all that stuff. And then when they finally released it, I was like, oh cool, I always wanted those, so I bought them. And then months later, I'm like, oh, it's still available. Oh, it's
Yeah.
it's like almost $100 off. I'm like, oh man, darn it. But I still like it. I
Yeah.
still like the shoes. Don't get me wrong, I do like the sneakers, but I'm just bummed out that I paid full price for it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in a similar boat as you. I don't necessarily have a sneaker regret.
Yeah,
Most of the sneakers that I've wanted, I've either again like I've either bought them or I was blessed enough that they were sent to me.
yeah, yeah,
So I think it's pretty similar to you of just being like buying a sneaker at full price
yeah,
and then seeing it go on sale. You're like and especially like I don't need any sneakers at this point. So like when I buy something at full price, like obviously I really, really want it.
mm-hmm,
But if I would have just waited a month or waited a couple of weeks, I could have got it, 20, 30, 40% off. Like that's the
yeah,
part, like you said, that part stings.
yeah.
Um, like that part stings a little bit. But as far as like, I mean, if anything, it would be like the shoes that I've worn out kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't have worn them so much, and now I don't have them anymore.
Oh,
I
right,
probably I
right,
could
right.
have I could
Yeah,
have I could
yeah,
have mixed it up because I have so many other shoes that I could have worn. So I
mm-hmm,
think that would probably be my only regret. I don't have really a crazy like, oh, I didn't get those. I had the opportunity to get those, and I didn't get those. Um,
do
yeah.
you do you have any sneakers that because we've been blessed, like I said, we've been both been blessed with like sneakers come our way, through wherever. Do you have any
Yeah.
that you've given away that you're like, oh man, I wish I hadn't?
No, no, because I just have so many.
Right.
I have
Yeah.
so many. Like it
I'm
does
sure if I
like
thought about for myself, I'm sure if I thought about it, I could be like, oh, I wish I hadn't. But at the same time, I'm like, well, it went to a good place, because typically what I
yeah.
do is like my sneakers that, or whatever that got sent or seeded or whatever. Some of them just end up like going to family in the Philippines or being
Oh
donated or
yeah.
whatever. So I'm sure if I actually look through like the big old list of sneakers I've donated, given away, and all that stuff, I'm sure I could find a pair or two or three that I'm like, oh, I wish I kept that.
Yeah.
But it's not really something that's something that comes to mind anymore. Like I don't really think about it. So yeah,
Yeah, because I mean most of my stuff similarly it's either gone to family, it's gone to friends,
yeah,
it's gone to my church, it's
exactly.
gone to Goodwill, or like we used them to raise money for like we sold a bunch to help raise money for the homeless here in LA.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like
It
yeah,
goes to a good
I
place.
can't.
It goes to a good
Yeah, it
place.
goes to a
Yeah,
good place, and there's nothing that I can think of. I mean, and there's been some cool stuff, like some like really like limited stuff that we get in the mail, that we got in the mail, like the curry pack and some Chinese stuff. But it just
yeah,
felt like it was better to be in a different place. It'd be cool if I had it. Yeah, cool, it's great. But
right.
I can't say that I regret giving any pairs away.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Like, I've said, and people have asked me how many sneakers I've had through the years, and I tell them if I never gave away anything, and if I kept everything, I could fill my garage, basically a two-car garage.
Yeah,
Probably it would probably even more. If you, and of course you've been doing it longer than I have. If you had never given away anything, how many garages could you fill? How many two-car garage? Basically, how many garages could you fill? Like in your estimate?
Um, I,
Because I've seen your garage, but like, how many of
I'd
those?
probably say if I never gave anything away,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Because
gonna
you have a storage
assume,
unit, so you have a storage unit.
yeah,
So basically, that's like
yeah.
a one or
That's
two
like a
car.
garage, like a
That's
one, like
one
it's like a
car.
10 by 20.
Yeah,
So
so
that's
that's
yeah,
a one
that's like a
car.
one
Yeah,
car.
yeah,
I would probably say probably two, maybe two and a half, three garages, like 2 car
yeah,
garages.
yeah. Like maybe like a three, being generous, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So maybe like a I would say yeah, maybe uh, yeah, maybe two-car garages.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and what we mean by that is like it's so full that you can't walk through it. That's what we mean by like you could fill a garage. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
you
So
could
those
maybe
are
create
like
like a little space. What I
yeah,
meant by that is like yeah, you could like make a little space for you to walk through. But yeah, like that's how much I could have filled. But yeah, no, it just goes to show you how much we've gotten through the years and how like
yeah,
lucky we were, but also we've been like, we also have this thought of like, if we're not gonna wear it, we're not gonna do anything with it. Might as well give it to a
yeah.
good place. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so
So
yeah, all
yeah.
good. Yeah. But yeah, sneaker regret. Every time I pay for something full price and it goes on sale.
think that's everybody's regret, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, next question comes to us from James from Chicago. How do you feel about sneaker culture changing from real sneakerheads who just bought sneakers for the love of the game to people who don't even love sneakers, just reselling? I feel like this is the most common question, I guess, that people talk
Yeah.
about when it comes to
Yeah.
sneaker culture. But I think it'd be nice to address it. I don't know. Reselling has always been part of sneaker culture, right?
Right. Yep.
I don't think
Yep.
it's a new thing. It's just heightened now because of social media. Now there's reseller platforms. No, I think reselling has always just been part of the culture. Like it's just heightened now. Like there's always been people who have bought sneakers to, eventually flip them. Just like there's people who buy Pokemon cards or whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
always just been part of it. It's just that there was so much coverage of it during like that era, like that 2010s where, people were lining up. And then,
Yeah.
like I said, with the rise of like, with the eBays and the StockXs and all that stuff. So I think to a certain degree, sneakers kind of get a bad rap. Like it's like they get kind of get blamed for reselling. I was listening to a video game podcast like not long ago, and they would often like kind like when the PS5 was hard to get or like whatever an Xbox was hard to get, and they would kind of pin it on like reselling culture, which means sneakerheads, and it's like
Mm.
no, people have been reselling PS2s. Like, do you
Yeah.
remember like back in the days the PS2 when it was first came out, it was so tough to get, and
Yeah.
people were like buying them up and reselling them on eBay. So same thing with the PS3. So it's always been there. So I don't think it's there's been a change. It's just that we're more aware of it now.
Yeah. 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 The way I always when people ask me this question, I like to phrase it in terms of, and then we've talked about this a little bit before on the show,
Yeah, yeah.
in like in the style of like comic book culture,
Mm-hmm.
where like we knew about comic books, um, but we didn't really know all the characters when it comes to comic books. Like we weren't all like everyone knew Superman, Batman, and maybe they knew Iron Man,
Mm-hmm.
um, and maybe they knew Thor, but not in the comic book sense, kind of thing. Maybe they knew
Right,
Spider
right,
Man, Spider Man, Wonder Woman, but
right.
like Incredible Hulk too. Sorry, I'm trying to name all the ones that I can think that are like really pop culture relevant. Like
Sure, sure,
those are the
sure.
ones
Yeah.
everybody knew. But
Right.
when the Avengers came out and all those movies and all those things, like everyone learned about all of these different characters and all of these different people that were in the comic books. I
Right.
think sneakers is the same way. The 2010s and comic books had like a similar ramp up where
Right.
they went
Right.
through this phase of like popularity where they broke through their
Mm-hmm.
communities and went into the broader world. And so I
Mm-hmm.
look at sneakers the same way. Like it broke through its community of sneakerheads and expanded to the other world, which is honestly, in my opinion, is good because other people get to experience this thing that we're so passionate about and that we love so much. And the same thing with comic book nerds. Although there are some that are like, oh, they're ruining the comics, and you're always going to have that side of it. But you
Yeah.
also have the people that are like, now you understand why I was so passionate about this. Now you understand why
Yeah.
I liked
Yeah.
this so much. And so it's the same thing with sneakers. You get this community of, you're exposing the world to this thing that you love so much and they get to get into it. Of course, there's going to be people that take advantage of it and that try and make money off of it. That's just the nature of the world that we live in, unfortunately. It does
Right.
it suck? Yes, 100%. It's terrible. I hate it. But at the same time, I am excited that when I walk down the street now, people have a greater appreciation for sneakers in general. And it
Right.
sparks up conversations and you make friends with people. And, it's almost like an icebreaker in a sense now because it's gotten so popular. But like comic books, Marvel's Endgame was the moment.
Right.
You know, that was the
Yes.
moment, and
Yeah.
sneakers kind of went through. They've reached their peak, and so things are kind of going going back down the hill now. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that is also good because now you'll filter out some of the opportunists in those
Right.
worlds,
Mm-hmm.
and but you'll have a new community of people that appreciate sneakers now. It's like, yeah, this many people appreciate sneakers, but then this amount of people found out about them. But
Right.
now, after you filter out all the like just here because it's cool thing, you'll get to this point, and now you have this extra layer of people now that appreciate sneakers and understand the culture in a way
Right.
that they didn't understand before. So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it. The reselling part of it, it obviously made it challenging for a while. But I just think that's part of the process of growing the world of sneakers and growing that community.
Right. Right. Totally. Totally. And the reality is that, this resellers, they're going to move on to the next thing. That's the
Yep.
other thing too, is that there's always going to be sneaker resellers. There's always going to be like, the ones who are trying to get back to, like, trying to find the unscrupulous ways to get sneakers. But
Yeah.
like you said, like there's this, level, right? But then like once it's filtered out, those are like they're moving on to their next thing. They're moving on to their next grift, whether like I said, it's
Yeah.
Pokemon or NFTs. Well, it's not NFTs anymore, but they're finding their next thing. They're just gonna find their next thing, and eventually, like I said, it's gonna be filtered down, and then we're gonna get to this point where it's like, yeah, there's gonna be not there's more people who are gonna be who are actually interested in sneakers and actually care
Yeah.
about it in the way that we kind of hope they would. And
Yeah.
and it's a cycle too, like kind of like with Marvel, right? Like, and actually, it's funny. There's gonna be a question about this. Um, it's a cycle. Like you said, Endgame. That was the moment. That was like the peak of everything,
Yeah.
and everything that's come after that. People, I mean, I still enjoy it. I like
Yep.
to think I enjoyed the MCU post that, but there's definitely been like a drop off in terms of like people liking it and whatever. But
Yep.
yeah, I think it just comes in cycles, and who knows? Maybe this is the year the MCU picks back up with I like the Captain America movie, but
Yeah.
with Fantastic Four coming soon, and then what was the other one? The Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
It could things could pick back up, and then I think next year is like the next Avengers movie. Like who knows? That could be the thing that really starts the cycle all over again. So, these things come in waves, and we're just kind of going through like a quote unquote a down period, and then sneakers will just have its next big thing, which I guess kind of goes into the next question, which is from Dom. Dom says, "What do you think is the next big sneaker trend? I see the dad shoe trend dying this year or next year, and basketball shoes coming back in a big way when Nike makes Caitlin Clark's first shoe. What do you think? Love the show." Um,
Mm.
Caitlin Clark
I'll let
could
you
be
go.
like the spark, huh? Interesting, interesting. I think it still comes down to design. Like I think the big
Mm.
reason why people are still not into basketball shoes is because they can't wear it. Oh well, they think they can't wear it off the court. So I think, yeah, sure, Caitlin Clark. I think how it's designed, how it looks is going to play a big factor into it. Like they're people. I don't know, right? Because people, they look at basketball shoes or look at the Jordans. They were like, oh, they're made. They look so good on and off the court too. I'm like. I'm trying to remember when I was a kid, did I think, oh, I can wear these off the court or whatever? I'm like, no,
No.
I was a kid. I was like, I just wear them, you
I just
know?
wear them. Yep.
Yeah, I never
100%.
had any thought about like I never had the separation of like the two, right? It's like a separation of church and state. It's like separation of court and off the court. It's like I
Yeah.
never thought of sneakers that way, and I still don't to this day. Like I'll wear basketball shoes. I still wear basketball shoes, walking around and everything. So I think, but now that people are more, like you said, now there's people more aware of it.
Hmm.
They want to be able to have a shoe that they think they can pull off the court. And I think regardless of whether it's Caitlin's shoes or the Nike A1 or whatever else Nike or any other brand has, coming down the pipeline, it has to be something that translates to off the court and whatever that perception of off the court is, because tastes change. Like I never
Yeah.
thought like a Yeezy was like whatever, or whatever kind of shoe it could be like an off the court shoe, but it is.
Yeah.
So I just think it depends on the design at the end of the day, and less about the person or the athlete that's behind it. It'll play a role, but I don't think it's gonna be the thing that really decides whether a basketball shoe can become like the next big thing. It's gonna be about the design of the basketball shoe if it becomes the next big thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back about how often people were wearing, well, I guess in high school people were wearing basketball shoes as
Yeah,
like
yeah,
as like style shoes kind of thing with the like as
yeah.
part of like the style. But yeah, so I mean I think that moment is kind of, I think the game is poised for that to come back. Um,
Right.
I think obviously retros kind of had their moment, and retro primarily drove that conversation. I think in like the
Mm-hmm.
2010s, that
Right.
was primarily like you wore retros off the court. Um, so really, and like honestly, it's a lot of the shoes that they're wearing off the court now are the shoes that we wore off the court back then. So like Air Force Ones, Sambas, shell toes. Those were the things that you wore off the court back then. Um, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if Caitlin Clark is necessarily going to be that spark, so to speak. I
Yeah.
think that that's already starting to happen as
Mm-hmm.
like more collaborations come into play. Like I was at an event the other night, and Lance Gross was there, and he had on a suit with um, the Royal Blue Unions on.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, all right, that makes sense. I get it. Like like that sort of thing is coming back. So I think as that sort of style is coming back into conversation, um, slowly but surely, and I just think it'll just be, it'll be more. I think there'll be more of a fashion twist to it as opposed to just rocking your skinny jeans and a pair of retros. I think people are going to have a
Right.
little more fashion sense to it and put outfits together better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if like the Caitlin Clark, like Sabrina style shoe is going to be the one. Like they almost
Right.
look like, those look almost like futuristic kind of thing. They have like this
Mm-hmm.
futuristic slanted like speed. They look quick, so to speak.
Right.
And
Right. Right. Right.
that's not necessarily a shoe you wear
Mm-hmm.
for like fashion wise. I don't know. We'll see. I would love to be able to predict the future, but I think it's going to be. I don't know if the basketball tech shoes will be the answer to that. If that
Well,
makes
what do you
sense.
think about the direction that the KD line has taken recently? With the KD 17, it looks like the Air Max
Yeah,
Plus, and now with the KD 18, it's the Humara. I think that's what it was
yeah,
supposed to be
yeah.
based. Like it looks like it's based off of. Like, do you feel maybe that's the direction that a basketball shoe needs to take? Is to have more of a, like, really, because I don't know, because I don't know if Tinker Affield ever thought about like his shoes being lifestyle stuff. Like, I guess people
Yeah.
never really thought about it back then, but I guess now you
No.
kind of have to. Like, do you feel that should be a direction that designers have to like put more into account, more into like their thought process? Is really think about like how can this also fit off the court, or do you feel like that takes away from creating the best basketball shoe possible? Do you feel
Oh,
like,
yeah. Their focus should be on creating the best basketball shoe. Period. Obviously, you want the
yeah,
shoe to look good. Not that
right,
you don't want the shoe to look good. You want the shoe to look good, but
right,
you want to create the best basketball shoe. Period. Like
mm-hmm,
that should be every designer's goal.
right.
I don't think the goal should be like, yeah, but can you rock this on a runway too? That shouldn't be your focus at all.
It should, yeah, it shouldn't be, but I feel like there might be pressure because you want these shoes to sell, right? You want these shoes to be able to do well and everything. So maybe I don't know, maybe there might be a little bit of like, maybe the KD there had to be a refresh, and this
Yeah.
ended up being like what the refresh was. So I wonder if that will bleed into other shoes like LeBron's or Giannis's shoes. Which
Mm,
surprising, I did actually want to talk to you about that. The thing that I've noticed lately is that I see a lot of people wearing not the Giannis signature shoe, but the Immortality, the takedown model.
the
I thought
takedown.
that, yeah, like I thought that was, and the place that, of course, that I saw it was Disneyland. Because like I said, we have family annual pass and all that stuff. So I've noticed more than any other Nike basketball shoe. I've noticed that
Mm.
it's the Giannis Immortality, like the takedown models. It's not even like a signature shoe. Sometimes it's the one that with the reverse swoosh, but like I noticed, I'm like, oh, I wonder why. Is it the price? Is it the
It's
design?
gotta
Like what?
be.
It's
It's
got to
gotta
be a
be the
little factor,
price.
right?
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
see a ton of kids in those too.
Hmm.
Like especially at like my nephew's basketball games, like
Are they
the
well
Giannis
received like in
takedown.
terms of like performance? I wonder if that's also part of it too.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I see a lot of kids rocking them on court, like from like my nephew's games, and this is like the 7 to 12 year old sort of
Sure, sure.
era. So yeah, I think that has to be it.
I
I mean,
mean,
what are they priced? Hold on, now I'm gonna look see how much they cost.
yeah, it's not even like the Zoom Freaks, right? It's not even those shoes that I see a lot of people, wearing, or it's the Immortalities, and I'm like, huh, interesting. Like, and you don't see Soldiers a lot. You don't see the NXXT next generations or anything.
Yeah,
I don't even know if Katie has a takedown model anymore. You don't. There are a handful of Jaws, there are a handful of Sabrinas, but it's definitely the Giannis Immortality for some reason. It's not just
yeah.
like one particular model. It's like whatever. I think we're up to like 4 or 5 or something, and I've kind of just been seeing them around, and I thought that was
Yeah,
pretty unique. And I'm sure Giannis loves that. It's like
yeah, and it's got to be pricing too, because the Giannis, let me see, Immortality. I'm looking at the free. Sorry, looking at
yeah.
Immortality.
See. Like I've actually had to like do my like, wait, is this the freak shoe or is this the Immortality? Right? I've
Yeah,
I've had that moment too.
like they're 85, $80, $85, 80, $85.
That
Like,
helps. That certainly helps.
you know what I mean? That makes it easy for a
Yeah.
parent. You know what I mean? That's easy for a parent to buy a
It's
shoe that's $85 versus paying 140 because I think the Freak is 140.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's a
And I'm
no
sure some
brainer.
and I'm sure some of those kids are Giannis fans. Like, they want to wear their guy's shoe. And it kind of
Yeah,
reminds me of back then when we had the phenomenons or whatever the Kobe takedown models were. I saw a lot
yeah.
of those, especially. I mean, it helps that we're in LA that you're going to see just a lot of Kobe's. Period, but definitely saw a lot of kids wearing the Kobe takedowns around here. So yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
just interesting that out of all of the Nike signature guys, it was Giannis that had the one had the standout takedown model. So I don't know if that's
Uh,
like a trend, but I do think that it helps Giannis's brand. I think that
yep.
it helps him, like, so and maybe eventually these kids move up to the Zoom Freaks at some point, but it's gonna be up to like Nike to design a Zoom Freak that's gonna work for kids as they grow up and move on from the Immortalities. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Immortalities are on sale for there's pairs on sale for $60.
Oh, that's gold to a parent.
Like that's a sweet spot for parents, man. Like
Yeah,
you
exactly.
can't like you just can't deny that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And Giannis, if we one thing about Giannis, he loves the money, man.
Yeah,
he appreciates it in a way that doesn't sound. It's funny because Giannis doesn't sound like when he talks about like what was it, like the NBA Cup when they won. He's like, hey,
yeah,
500K is 500K, and it never sounds like greedy. It never sounds like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
if we hear someone else say, we're like, oh man, he's just like taking the money and doesn't care about whatever. But when something about Giannis and his personality, it's like when he
Feels
says it,
like
it's
he
like,
appreciates
yeah,
it.
he appreciates it, right? And it's
Yeah,
funny. So, and again, that goes back to the whole face of the NBA thing. Why can't we make Giannis the face of the NBA? Like, he appreciates this stuff. But anyways,
yeah.
all right. Thank you for that question, Dom. I don't know. Well, we have to see with Caitlin Clark. We have to see what the shoe looks
We'll have to
first
see
and
with Caitlin
foremost.
Clark. Yeah,
Yeah, but and if she has another standout year in the W, it can help. It can definitely help too. So,
yeah.
next is from I love it. This guy's name is Juan, but it's spelled WAN.
Oh, okay.
Shout
Like a
out
wide area
to shout
network.
out to all my Juans out there. if you follow me on the socials on Instagram, I have like a you can save like particular stories, right? And I have a thread of every time my name has been misspelled by Starbucks. Starbucks or whatever, like, takeout order or whatever. I've had WAN, WON, just every variant. JAUN, not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. See.
So that's someone over
Yeah, Luke. I
little
have.
dyslexia there at
There's a
Starbucks.
there's a lot. There's a lot. So, but anyway,
That's
so
funny.
Juan, he's from Phoenix, and it says, I know you guys covered the MCU sometime, so I want to know if you guys think they should just start over after the next Avengers movies. There's too many TV shows and too many movies, and it's hard for someone new to follow. I've been a fan from the beginning, and it's just too overwhelming now.
Mm.
I guess he's asking, should there just be a reboot at this point?
You know,
I guess after the Avengers movies, like, should there be a reboot and just start over? Because there's a lot. Like, admittedly, there's a lot of ground to cover,
yeah,
and
yeah,
maybe it's
yeah.
just overwhelming for someone new. Because we've been at this since what,
Was it
2008
like
or
six?
nine?
Oh, yeah, it was that 2008. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a while. Look, I never thought about it that way. I guess not. I never like vocalized it, but I think he's right, or she's right, that there is a lot when it comes to the to Marvel right now. Like there's so
Right.
many different pieces and storylines, and it's hard to thread everything together and to keep up with everything. Um, do you blow it up and restart? I don't know if you blow it up and restart, but maybe you tailor it down some.
Right.
Maybe you
Like,
just
we've gotten too big. We've gotten too big. We kind of
yeah,
have to
yeah,
like tone
yeah.
it
Maybe it's
down.
gotten
Yeah.
too big, and now you just kind of you focus the stories a little bit
Right.
to a certain, maybe there's five stories instead of like 15. Like I feel like there's probably like 15 different storylines happening now,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
all those tie together. Like it's hard. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. I guess it's great because you have all of this content out there. Like if you're into comic books, you get to see all of this different stuff.
Right.
But the tough part is as a I guess a normal viewer
Mm-hmm.
is trying to connect all the dots.
Right.
Because they all tie together in some way, shape, or form. But
Mm-hmm.
doing that math, like that's hard. Like
Yeah.
I think that's the most challenging part of it.
Yeah.
And that may be what what Juan's talking about is because there's so many dots to connect. If you get into any storyline a little bit, oh, that's going to lead to this. Oh, then that leads to this. Then that leads to this. Then that leads to this. And like that is just too much to grasp. Just
Right.
from my perspective, that's just too much to
Yeah.
grasp and too much to understand. Like I watch those like trailer reaction videos once when a new Marvel thing comes out, and I am just fascinated by how much these people are connecting all of these dots. And I feel like
Right.
I feel like I know a pretty good amount of what's going on,
Right.
but I watch these trailers and I'm like, damn, I don't know nothing. I don't know anything. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like an information overload when you try to connect all of those dots. So I would say less of stopping it and rebooting it, more of like trimming the stories down, like funnel the stories down to less things so it's
Yeah.
easier to connect all of the dots for everything.
Right. I kind of feel the same way, but also whenever when I used to hear somebody say, "Oh, there's too much going on," I'm like, dude, it's a 2 hour movie out of like the whole year. Like, how bad is that?
Mm,
And then the more I think about it, it's like, well, for people, but that's because I was alive for the whole time, right? Like, I watched
hmm
Iron Man 1. That was like a 2 hour movie. Oh, okay. Well, I just move on with the rest of my life, right?
Yeah.
And then the Hulk, and then the Thor. There were like one or two movies, and it's over the course of time. It's like, yeah, but I was there for the whole time. But if someone's
Yeah.
coming into it new, I could see they'd be like, oh, there's too much. I
Yeah.
can't. There's not a lot. It's overwhelming, and then part of it too was like when I watched the new Captain America movie. They they do the mental gymnastics of tying in the first Hulk movie, which was in
Oh wow.
2010. Yeah, like a big part. Like you, I'm not saying you had to watch that movie, but a big part of it is like plot point from that movie, and I'm like, wow, I haven't
Yeah.
even thought about that movie since it came out back in 2009 or 10 or whatever. And I could
Yeah.
imagine someone being like, what happened then? And then
Yeah.
and it is a huge ask to get somebody to go, hey, you need to go watch that movie for this to make sense. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I get it now. I get it now. So yeah, like blowing things up and starting over, it might be a bit of a huge ask considering how much time and investment that not just Marvel has made, but like the fans have made. Because you could also be
Yeah.
running the risk of like pissing on the fans who have been there from the beginning and being like, so
Yeah. Yep.
now it's for nothing. Now it's for nothing. But I do think a more toned down, less content, less stories approach might be the best. But also, there's one big thing though that kind of runs in the face of this, and that's the X-Men.
Hmm.
That thing is coming soon. Like that thing that's their big like ace in the hole. Because the X-Men was like the thing in the 90s, right? That's the thing
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
and the X-Men movies were like a big thing during the 2000s, and that the Fox part of it shut down. That's over with. So the MCU has to bring that into. I mean, they have to bring the X-Men into the MCU, and how they pull that off is, I think, is going to dictate like how things go moving forward because they can't mess that up. Like if
Yeah.
they like maybe if they blow it up, start things over, and like the X-Men is like the flashpoint, the thing that starts everything over again. Maybe they could do that.
Mm.
But I think maybe, but also, and then yeah, no, there's also the Fantastic Four. So that's two big things, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
they can't mess those up. They cannot mess those up. So either they blow things up and like restart with those two things being like the focal point, or they really have to like thread the needle and
Yeah.
like yeah, man, it's tough because like the X-Men is the huge thing that's to me. I think that's the huge thing that's looming on the MCU, and how they execute on that is gonna determine whether we are. I'll always care at the end of the day because I was a huge fan of those stuff as a kid. Like, and to me, like when a movie's bad, I don't think it's the end of the world. Like I
Yeah.
don't like I
Yeah.
never I just look at it as entertainment. Like I guess the people who had the responses to Captain America were like, oh, it's trash, it's all that stuff. I'm like, I enjoyed it. It was a
Yeah.
good, fun, decent 2.5 hours of my life, and I just don't think about it anymore. Like that's how I am with these Marvel movies. Is like I don't think about it beyond what I just saw. It's
Yeah.
like it was fun. If it was like the Eternals, I'm like, oh, what the hell was that? But I also don't let it bother me for the rest of my days.
Yeah.
Like I have to like I just take it less seriously than the massively online fans. And I get it that, that's part of like, it's part of the fandom. I get that it's like, but I just don't obsess over it like, the hardcore like MCU fan or Marvel fan or comic book fan or anything like that. So when a movie's bad, I'm just like, it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
It just it's 2 hours. Like I said, it's another 2 hours of my out of my life. But if someone new's coming in, but it would be hard for somebody who's like, oh, I want to get into this. Oh, I have to watch a lot of slop. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of slop, but there's also a lot of good stuff. But
Yeah. There's
I
a
would
lot of good stuff
imagine,
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like to ask them to watch all the slop to make sense of the good stuff too, it might be too much of an ask. It might be too much of a yeah. So. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks,
I
Juan.
can see.
Yeah, thanks, Juan from Phoenix.
Yeah.
Great name, great name, great name. So last question is coming to us from TJ, and I think this one's a pretty wild one. Nico Harrison offered Luka to Minnesota for Ant-Man before he went to the Lakers. Should Minnesota have taken that trade, or would you rather trade AD? Luka goes to Minnesota, and Ant-Man comes to LA. Ant-Man at the Lakers would have been crazy. Huh. So I looked this up, and I'm like, oh, so Nico Harrison, the Dallas GM, who everybody knows who he is now, especially here in LA. Thank
Yeah.
you, Nico.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess he offered Luka to Minnesota first for Anthony Edwards. Huh. Should Minnesota have taken that trade? Okay, let's break this down. Should Minnesota have taken that? Should Minnesota have traded Anthony Edwards for Luka?
I don't think I'm going to say no. because that is it's almost like an even trade.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, right?
It's almost
Like
like an even
similar
trade. And
age. Yeah.
yeah, and I AE and I mean yeah, AE and Kyrie don't make as much sense as Kyrie and AD.
Sure. Right. Right. In terms of like fit. Yeah.
Yeah, at least in
You
my
feel
mind.
like it feels like you're just trading. It's like you're trading one thing for the same thing. It's like you're just
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Not
So
like
I mean,
not like Anthony Edwards and Luca's games are similar, but but in terms of like star power, in terms of like their ceiling feels like it's the same, right? And
yeah,
like Anthony Edwards has really already established himself in Minnesota. Like I think it'd be like if people thought that like Dallas was mad trading for trading Luca away, like then you'd have two fan bases mad. Like Anthony Edwards would be like, Minnesota would be like, oh what we lost
yeah,
AE, that's messed up.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Then
I feel like
Minnesota. I mean, yeah, Minnesota couldn't let him go. I mean,
yeah Minnesota
but to be
going
fair, I would have said the same thing about Dallas letting Luca go. I would have said
yeah
Dallas can't let Luca go. So, maybe there's things that we don't know that they know, but
yeah
I don't see that being, yeah, that doesn't, in my mind, AE going to Dallas just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's worth all it's worth the trade for
yeah I
either
don't think
team.
so.
For
Yeah, I
either
feel
team,
like
it
it'd just
doesn't
be
feel
like
like it's
mess
worth
for the
it.
sake of mess, like in
Yeah,
terms of like that kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
trade.
yeah, yeah.
Now this one though, the other part of the question that was interesting. AD goes to Dallas. Anthony Davis goes to Dallas. Luca goes to Minnesota, and we get Anthony Edwards. I wonder, like, do we do that though? Basically, it comes down to would we rather have Luca or Anthony Edwards?
Um, I think I'd rather have Luca.
Yeah, I think,
I think I'd rather have Luca.
and it comes
Again,
down to fit
no,
again, right? I think it comes down to fit
yeah,
again, right? Yeah,
yeah,
because like when the way I think about it, I think LeBron would still have to be the primary ball handler,
right,
playmaker with Ant here. Not that I don't think Ant could handle that responsibility, but I feel like when I watch Anthony Edwards, I look at him as someone who's like, give me the ball and I'll, and like maybe or catch and shoot or just I don't feel like he's just as dynamic or creative as like Luca when it comes to like with the ball and like distributing it and all that stuff. I just don't think
yeah,
of Anthony Edwards, and he's more of like a give me the ball, I'll just take it to the hole or like chuck a three or something like that.
yeah.
I don't see him
Same.
like I don't see him as like somebody who will get like a 12 assist kind of game, which is what Luca had like the night before when he had
Yeah, yeah. I don't see that. I mean, not that again. Not that AE can't do that.
yeah
I feel like he can't do that, but I don't feel like that's a natural. That's the natural part of his game. I feel like
yeah
he would have to. He would have to. You would have to. I'll put it this way. I feel like you would have to change AE's game a little bit to
right
get him to fit,
right.
whereas Luca just kind of falls into the role that I think that he with LeBron that I feel like is the most beneficial.
Yeah, it would like it comes down to the LeBron part too, right? Like I said, like LeBron would probably have to like keep the same, load manage, load.
Yeah,
Like even though AD, like you said, like you said earlier, where like AD was doing well, but LeBron still had to like be the one who brings the ball up or like handles like the playmaking responsibilities
yeah,
and has to like integrate everybody into the offense. Like, and it'd probably be the same with Anthony Edwards,
yeah.
So, but with Luca, it's like, nah, man, I just work by magic, and LeBron can play off ball, which
Yeah.
is like
Yep.
off ball LeBron is just something that we never saw a lot. Like we kind of saw bits and pieces in Miami, but now it's like, but D Wade, for as great as he was never like the ball handler that Luca is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but now I just had that thought of like what a Miami LeBron would look like with a Luca, right? No, that's
Wow.
nuts. No.
Yeah. That'd be crazy.
But anyways, yeah, no, I think it worked out like in terms of like the trade, like and also Anthony Edwards seems like he's happy in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like remember like his comments when Luca got traded is like, hey man, I like it here.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
if I get traded, let me know. Let me know before. Let me know before if you're
Yeah.
gonna trade me. But I like it here in Minnesota. It's like so. Oh no, not now I can imagine like how sad Anthony Edwards would be if he got traded. That'd be fun. That'd be so funny, like because we already see like sad Luka. I mean, we can see it, right? Luka's still not over it. He's still
Yeah.
kind of processing everything. Could you imagine like Anthony Edwards going through those motions in Dallas or here in LA? Oh boy,
Uh,
where he would have like let's
uh,
where Anthony Edwards would have say let's say more options.
yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
more entertainment options, shall we say? Well, maybe AE would get over it quicker if he was in Dallas or in LA, especially here in LA.
That's
He'd be
funny.
like, "Oh no, I'm not in Minnesota. Oh wait, I'm in Los Angeles.
I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I'm
Oh,
in Los
hey,
Angeles. Yeah.
holla at the Ant Man, you
Not a bad place to be.
know." So maybe
Not
it
a
actually
bad
does
place
work
to
out.
be.
Maybe it actually does work out. Who knows?
That's funny. That is
Don't look up what Anthony Edwards does in his personal time. Don't
right.
Google that. Do not
Don't,
Google that.
don't, don't Google AE personal time.
No, 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 no. Just
That's
watch the
funny.
basketball stuff. Anyways, so that was it for the mailbag episode 27 of the Too Hard to Pass podcast. Thank you for the questions. Greatly appreciate
Yeah,
it.
great questions. Great questions today.
And we'll do a future mailbag at some point again. Again, the email address is toohardtopasspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that is toohardtopasspodcast@gmail.com. That is the number two. Number
Number
two.
two,
Yes.
I am Jacques
And
Slade at Cousteau all over the internet places, and I do things on the internet about sneakers and golf. But this show is brought to you by Juan, who's on this side of me right now.
oh, okay. You're on this side of me.
Oh, well,
Oh
Juan.
no. Oh,
So
yeah,
why Juan?
I never no. It's, is it Juan or WAN? Who knows? No,
Who
maybe you're
knows?
looking at that one over there, WAN. Anyways,
Apparently.
I am Juan Martinez, aka Easyville. I am on the socials with that name. Have I ever
With
told the
that
story of
name,
how? Have I ever told the story of how I got
uh,
Easyville? I'll save that for another. I'll save that for another time. But anyways, thank you for watching, listening to the Too Hard to Pass podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode. Peace. We out, everybody. We out. Where's that button to stop recording? Oh, there it is.